Africa August. For the last 23 days, we had a free webinar series for our community. This is the New Africa webinar series. And today we have a special guest. This is our brother, philosopher, educator, Boyce Watkins. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing, brother?
Man, I'm doing excellent, man. Doing excellent, man. We appreciate you coming on to joining us. You know, I know that this is a tough day for a lot of people. How are you doing? How's your family? How's everybody?
Oh man, family's good, and I'm gonna tell you, man, I'm really excited, to be here on the platform with you, man. We haven't talked for several months, but I always joke. I told you privately, but I should say it publicly too, man. I always call you the Black Jeff Bezos. Just as far as just this genius you have and the brilliance you had to put together this amazing platform. And I know you went to Howard, and I really think you should be running Howard's business school. If you would be at Howard's business school, we would have a million new entrepreneurs in the generation, man. So God bless you, brother. Much respect.
Man, hopefully, man, one day if I get that invite from Howard, man, I'll come in and do what I could do, But definitely, we on a mission, man. We on a mission to produce every single thing that we need. That's the bottom line. From a toothbrush all the way into our own cars, our own airplanes. That's the mission, and I'm making that one of my life goals. Among other things that I would like to do, I like to listen to Sade, paint, I want to sing sometimes, but, one of the things that, before I leave this earth, if God willing, I want to make sure that all the infrastructure is there for all the things that we need and want, that we're in position to produce that for ourselves, man. Yeah.
Well, I love that. I mean, that's what makes you a visionary. A visionary can see a couple of generations ahead and realize, okay, this is the stage we're at. This is what we need at this stage, right? So again, digging deep into the Jeff Bezos comparison, Jeff Bezos had this great vision he put together on building artificial planets. And it's the craziest thing I've ever seen, but he talked about how, theoretically it's all possible, but we don't have any of the technology or infrastructure there. But he said, what you do is you build the infrastructure in this generation so the next generation can build on top of that. And so the work that you're doing is building that groundwork so that our kids can just take it to a level that we can't even see.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Most definitely, man. I was, one of the reasons why we even wanted to develop this, this concept of New Africa August was mainly because we realized that a lot of the resources and tools that we need in order to develop the ideal community that we want, we have it. We have it, but there's no exposure there. It's the same thing when it comes to like the products. We make a lot of products in our community, but we have an issue with distribution. So we sort of beg Target, beg Walmart, beg all of these major distributors to get into their stores. But if we had sort of our own outlet, where's that, okay, if I create 1,000 of these or 10,000 of these or 100,000 of these products, can I guarantee that it will get distributed out, right? And that's what kind of gets us cut off from the millions and millions of dollars is distribution, So, with New Africa August, the whole concept, the whole purpose of this concept was to distribute and disseminate information to our community, pushing out an agenda of creating this ideal community that we're looking for. When we say New Africa, this was a concept that was introduced to me, into my community from our late leader, Imam Warfdi Muhammad, who's a son of Elijah Muhammad. And his vision, when he talked about New Africa, he mentioned that there were leaders in our community that had mentioned this term before, with the same idea this term before, to create this this society in which everything that we need is produced by our own hands, is produced by us. Where people, just as they would come to Chinatown, could come to our town and be able to engage with us and see the developments that we're working on. And he compared this to, people who came from Europe, like York and Hampshire and Jersey, and set up a new life for themselves here in America. And they called it New York, New Hampshire, New Jersey. And they didn't forget where they came from, although they knew they were establishing a new life for themselves here. So for us as African Americans, we know where we come from, but we've been totally separated from that life, stripped away from our family life, our cultural life, our educational life, our spiritual life, our life completely. until we was nothing but empty vessels, you know, here in America. So what we're doing now and what we're trying to do is establish a new life for ourselves, a life that would represent the best of human life. So we want the best educational system. We don't want to just pattern ourselves off of a system that just exists. We want to try to produce the best one. We want to have the best business infrastructure. We don't want to just follow the capitalistic structure that's here today. We want to look at a system that involves the cap or the head and the heart, right? We want to look at not just looking at the political system that exists today as they're giving it to us today, but what's the best political system to help further the world, not just our community, but further the world in general. And that's where, that's this whole concept of New Africa. And the way that we defined it is the physical manifestation of our collective desire and urge to do for ourselves so that we may position ourselves to do for the whole world. So really there's a leadership component there. But first, in order to get there, we have to do for ourselves. That's the basics of life. You know, you can't tell nobody what to do, and we haven't done it for our own self. So, man, we appreciate you, man, coming on here. You know, and you know, we also for New Africa August, we wanted to bring on people who we know this, right? They specialize in this. They've dedicated their life to this. And we know that that's your work. That's what you represent. You've been consistent with it for a very long time. And, you know, we follow you, we appreciate you, and we've worked together, you know, quite a few times on different things. So, man, I know you got a whole presentation. I'm gonna turn it over to you. I'm gonna close my camera, but man, we appreciate you, man.
Oh, thank you for having me, brother. And I love exactly what you're saying, man. I mean, I think that overall, here's where we'll start the conversation, you know,
Yeah.
and I know we get a chance to do some Q&A as well. You know, first of all, welcome, hello, everybody. I'm so happy to see you. And I'm really honored to have your attention on this topic. But let's start, you know, what you talked about really sparked a thought that I had about reparations. You know, there's a big conversation about reparations. I'm a believer that we deserve reparations. That's very important for me in the next vote. And I'm pretty vocal about that. And because I just don't think that, I think that's an argument that I don't even know how to even have that debate. To me, that's not a debate, right?
Yeah.
But here's the one thing I want us to really understand is that I hope that we won't allow reparations to put us to sleep economically. Meaning, you know, this conversation about reparations is important, but you must, reparations or not, you must do what Sharif is talking about, which is own and control your own resources. Yeah. You must have your own businesses. You must have your own schools. You must have your own systems that you control. You must have scenarios where you have equity and ownership in that. You must buy back the block. You must do all those things, because if you don't, then you'll always be a guest in somebody else's house. And this is where we were misled in so many different ways. The simplest way to put that is to think about imagining if you live in a man's house and he gives you a bunch of food and all these other things, but you're living in his house. You don't have a house to go to. Well, his values are going to be what shapes that house. So he's going to have the ability to decide who stays, who goes, what matters, what doesn't, who the good people are, who the bad people are. So if he is a person who loves to watch football and he thinks that people who don't watch football are bad people, it doesn't matter. You can come back and you say, well, I'm a good person. I just don't like to watch football. Well, if he makes the decision to say, look, you don't like football, that makes you a bad person, get out of my house. Then you're stuck. So that becomes, and then what happens is we believe, we see that as racism. Oh, that's racist for you to tell me I have to get out for doing something that I didn't do, or for being a person that I'm really not. That's not so much racism as much as it is just power. Right? Power says that in my house, I make the rules. They don't have to be fair. In my house, I don't know about your house, Sharif, but in my house, this is not a democracy. We're not going to take a vote if you are a guest in my house. I might give you the illusion that you have some power, but the minute I decide that things are going to go in a different direction, that's going to happen because I'm the man of this house and she's the woman of this house, and we make all the rules. So the bottom line for Black people and all the people in our community that care about this message is that you must build a house. You must own a house. It must be yours. even if you go visit somebody else's house. So if you want to go work for other people, that's fine. I'm not shaming that, right? If you want to go partner with other people, that's fine. You should do that, right? You should participate. You should be a full participant in the global economy. But what you're missing is you're missing an anchor, right? You can't sort of float around and participate in what everybody else has got going on when you don't have a base that you can go to, because you're not ever going to have respect. Your friends will disrespect you even more than your enemies if they know that you don't have a base. If they look at you, it's like if there's a kid down the street who's always eating in my house every single day, I might feed him as long as I can, but I'm not going to treat him like he's one of my kids. He's not a family member. He's not a relative. If there's only, a little food left, I'm feeding my children first. And then I'm gonna look at him and say, well, ain't you got a house to go to? Don't your parents live down the street? Like where? And so for us as Black people, we are economic and political orphans. We don't have a house to go to. We're the little kids showing up at the house every day eating, and we really think that we're part of the family. You ain't part of the family.
Wow.
Right. So I think that just starting the conversation there is really important, and so we can go deeper into this. And by the way, I don't want to hold you up. You can stay or you can go. It's totally up to you. I don't want you to feel like you had to hang.
Keep that going, man.
Okay, bet. Perfect. Let's do this then. Let's do this. All right. So here's what's really exciting to me. I'm notoriously pessimistic about a lot of things sometimes. I try not to be, but sometimes, I'll tell you, when I first started doing this stuff, I was on the faculty of Syracuse University. I had a whole bunch of book knowledge. I'd gone to school for a really long time. I got a PhD in finance, which meant I knew a lot of these things at a very high level, but it was also theoretical. I had the limitation that a lot of professors have, and this is why you have to be careful about those universities, is a lot of professors, they study the hell out of a book. They know a whole lot of theories, but most professors don't know how to make money. Most professors in business schools have never run a business. And most professors in most business schools, the ones, that put you in student loan debt for life, they don't know how to be Black. Most of them are not Black, including many of our HBCUs, unfortunately. I interviewed at your alma mater, Howard, and I remember being interviewed by a man from China. And a lot of my colleagues were from other places that were not here. And it's fine. I'm not judging. I'm just saying that that's what it is, right? So my limitation really came from the fact that I had to acknowledge the fact that I was a slave. I had to acknowledge the fact that I wasn't as free as I thought I was. I had to acknowledge that I wasn't as woke as I thought I was. Right? I thought that I was successful. I was not as successful as I thought I was. And I couldn't understand. I said, okay, I've done everything I'm supposed to do. I worked hard, went to school a long time, and stayed out of trouble. And I was making a lot of money, but I didn't feel free, and I didn't feel like an asset to the people that mattered to me. I was teaching a lot of kids who were not Black. Most of them were white and Jewish. They came from wealthy families, and many of them would go down to Wall Street and make a boatload of money. So I'm teaching them all these secrets to Wall Street. I'm really kind of the help, right? I'm the educated nanny, right? Just like slavery. I'm educating these kids who are not Black and sending them off into the world doing these great things. So I said, my gosh, I really need to find a way to wire back into the community, and not in a superficial way. Right? Superficial way is, oh yeah, I volunteer at the Boys Club every Saturday, or I go back to the hood every now and then. That's not a real connection. That's not really elevating the community. A real elevation, a real connection is when you say, okay, I've transitioned my entire life so that I'm giving at least 30, 40, 50 hours a week to solving the Black problem, the Black wealth problem. So at that point, I dedicated my life to solving the Black wealth problem. But before I could solve that problem for everybody else, I had to solve it for myself. I had to figure out, what was going on with my life and how I could be free enough to even do what I wanted to do. And the first thing I figured out is I said, I can't really do the things that need to be done. I can't do the hard work necessary and say the hard things that need to be said if I'm up here working for somebody else. I'm going to get blackballed. I'm going to get fired. I'm going to, all these other things. And all those things did happen. Those things all occurred, and it's fine. It was all a blessing. And I remember feeling very frustrated because people weren't really listening. I didn't get a lot of encouragement. I didn't have a lot of people saying, yeah, that's right. Yeah, teach wealth to Black people. Black people really, they love wealth. I had Black people telling me, lots of Black people saying, that's not going to work, right? You're limiting yourself, right? Like, I don't know, Black business owners in the house, raise your hand, because I'm sure you go through the same thing where you've had people say, well, you're limiting yourself by using the word Black. You shouldn't put the word Black in your, and that was one of those times where I was so happy that I actually went with my spirit and my gut and not with what people were saying, because there was nobody saying that this was a good idea at all. And I remember feeling very frustrated because I felt like I was swimming upstream against the wind and trying to swim through molasses. You know, I really felt like there was no momentum behind me. Nobody got it. Nobody cared. And so first thing was, to my surprise, there were people that cared. And that was kind of the first base. But in general, the population broadly did not care. You know, if you look at what the rappers were rapping about, they weren't rapping about the things that you and I talk about. They were rapping about a lot of the stuff that you know that some of our rappers rap about, right? All the things, you know, just a blueprint for self-destruction. That's what it was: economic self-destruction, psychological, physical, all these things, right? That's what hip hop, some parts of hip hop had become. And I just kind of kept going. I kept doing this. And what happened was, around 2012, when Trayvon Martin got killed, there was just this instance, really amazing switch, where suddenly it wasn't as bad or as scary to be Black in public. You know, I started seeing people come out the closet and kind of say, you know, I really am Black. And yeah, we really do have injustice. We really do have to talk about this. And I remember having an event with Cornel West in Brooklyn around that time. And I remember right before that, he was complaining that, yo, young Black people are sleepwalking. Y'all just sleepwalking. You know, well, he's not saying that now, right? So you fast forward to today. Now we got Jay-Z's latest song is called Entrepreneur, right? We have all the rappers talking about it. Charlemagne the God is asking Joe Biden questions that he would never expect from a Black entertainer, right? Yo, we have millions and millions of people talking about buying back the block. In fact, it's become almost assumed that one of the leading issues for Black people is economic empowerment, reparations, Black-owned business. Like, the dialogue has shifted in an amazing way, and this is powerful, man. I mean, this is so exciting. I really think that, again, despite the fact that I might have been pessimistic and a little annoyed at, you know, in the beginning, this is the opportunity to be optimistic and to realize what an opportunity you have, because we've done something here. Yeah. You know, the work you're doing with We Buy Black and what we're doing, the Black Business School, and what other people are doing in the community, man. I mean, I really think that this is going to be something that our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren are going to be talking about 100, 150, 200 years from now. Yeah. You know, and so to that point, I think that now it's time to really settle in on this and continue to hone in on the simple work necessary to develop, as you mentioned, the infrastructure for the Black economic revolution. That's what I refer to this as. And the Black economic revolution is rooted in something that we call the Project 2070. Project 2070 is this. Look, let me explain it like this. Growing up, I heard a lot of talk about using words like equality, inclusion, you know, diversity. Those terms never interested me or excited me. Those were just the lamest, weakest terms. It never did anything for me. I said, look, I'm a competitor. I like to compete. I don't want to run a race and try to tie, right? I don't believe that power is something that somebody just hands you. Power is something that you have to fight for. I believe that we're in a competition, even with our friends. And so Project 2070 is built out of this basic idea. It says that I believe that if we do things right in this generation, and this all goes through the parents, this all goes through all of you, you're all a part of this process. Everybody's a soldier in this. I believe that if we do what we need to do with our children right now in this generation, by the year 2070, Black people can be the most economically intelligent, economically capable group of people on the planet. Like, the same way we're known for being great basketball players, great football players, great rappers, we will be known for being great entrepreneurs, the best real estate developers, the most extraordinary investors on the planet. And so I think that doing this is something that I think we can unify around. I think it's something that our children will thank us for. And it's something that will allow us to really pay ourselves reparations. It doesn't mean that we don't deserve reparations. Look, if white folks write a check, I'll be glad to cash mine too, right? Excellent, sure, no problem. But I really believe that what we will get from simply making certain moves, basic, simple moves in this generation, will give us 5 times more than what reparations ever will. I just believe that. It doesn't mean reparations doesn't matter. I support you. I agree with you. Let's go get that check. But I think we can write a check. You know, so let me give you some specific points that parents can focus on in terms of participating in the Black economic revolution. Look, a revolution needs an army. An army needs soldiers. Soldiers are those individuals that have the skill and ability to execute a strategy that's going to help us pursue a battle plan. So what we need in our community is we need at least 1 million economic soldiers. This is almost a little bit of a talented 10th kind of philosophy, because everybody isn't gonna hear this or agree with this or care about this or participate in this. But you don't need everybody to participate. You just need your future captains of industry. You need the next Sharif Abdul Malik, right? You need the children that are going to be the leaders that will create jobs for the masses. Right? So you don't need everybody to do this. It's like in an army. You don't need everybody to join the army. You just need a few good men and women. So here we need a few good men and women. Most of them are children right now. And I'm not even talking about your children. I'm talking about your children's children. So this is a long-term play. We need you to make sure that they are versed in a few basic ideas. And so the basic ideas would be these. Here's one. One, your children should have some understanding at an early age, before the age of 12, of the 3 pillars of wealth, the 3 ways that white people make all the money, the three ways that people get rich. They should understand how to buy stock, which you can learn how to do in about 20 minutes. They should know how to buy real estate in terms of at least knowing that it's better to own it than it is to rent it. They should also know how to start a business in case the guy that they're working for decides to let them go, they want to earn extra streams of income, or they decide to tell their boss to kiss their butt, right? They should know those 3 things. So that means that the same way we send children to basketball camp, football camp, cheerleading camp, we need to send them to money camp, entrepreneurship camp. We can talk about jobs, sure. I mean, I grew up in a household where the first thing that we talked about was getting a job because we didn't know any better. But I think that the job option should be moved to the back of the list, not the front of the list. In our household, we talk about people getting jobs, but that I never bring it up. I never say that. I say, well, yeah, if you have to, right? And so our 10-year-old doesn't even know what it means to get a job. So she has a lemonade stand and made big bands of money. And she said, I don't think I want to work for anybody now. I said, there's my girl, right? So at the end of the day, I think that those are 3 things that you want your children to know: stock investing, real estate investing, entrepreneurship. Those are the 3 ways that people get rich in America. If your children are as good at those 3 things as we are at basketball, football, and everything else, then they will excel. You see, wealth is a competitive game. It is something where the person who shows up to the table, who is best trained, who's best prepared, who has the most skill, is gonna win. If you look at the world as a whole, there is constantly a wealth transfer from impatient people to patient people, from prepared people to unprepared people, to people that have vision, from the people that don't have vision. So really, you want to make sure that they show up to the game ready to play. Another little piece, this is a little acronym you could give your children that you could put on your refrigerator and just drill them on this. Make sure they understand this. In the Black Business School, we tell our kids to keep their poise. Poise is P-O-I-S-E. P-O-I-S-E stands for producer, owner, investor, saver, entrepreneur. Producer, owner, investor, saver, entrepreneur. Have them repeat that back and forth, back to you over and over and over again. Even if you don't know exactly what all that means, you can explain it, you can talk about it a little bit, but you don't have to preach all the time. You can just have them memorize that and lay that out as a framework, because what kids do, kids are amazing, because what kids will do is they will take whatever you give them and they'll go fill in the void. They'll go fill in the blanks. Whether you're feeding them something that's wonderful and amazing and extraordinary, or you're feeding them dysfunction, kids will kind of take it and make it into whatever they want it to be. So I'll give you an example. I have a friend who is about 31 years old. He's a multimillionaire. And he didn't grow up rich. His father his father didn't make much money. And I said, well, how did you get into entrepreneurship? He said, oh, my dad got me into it. I said, did your dad run a business? He said, no, my dad never ran a business. I said, so how did he get you into entrepreneurship? He said, well, my dad used to say that any Black man who wants to be free needs to have his own business. And he just ran with that. His father didn't even know how to start a business. He just gave him the core value of believing that freedom is linked to ownership. And so what happened was, when he went to college and they were like, well, what do you want to major in? He's like, well, my dad always said that a black man who wants to be free should have his own business. So I guess I'll study entrepreneurship. That's what kids do. They'll fill in the blank. You just have to kind of light the fire and light the spark. Like, everything that I do now came from my grandmother. My grandmother had an associate's degree, never took a finance class in her life, never made that much money, but she used to buy me savings bonds when I was little. And she gave me savings bonds, and I didn't know what they were. I didn't understand them. And she explained how they grow into more money or something. And that was my first introduction to compound interest. So that got me interested. And then I filled in the blanks. So just get your kids started, and they're going to fill in the blanks. And so here's the deal, right? And I'll finish on this point, because I know that you guys wanted me to talk, and then we could do some Q&A, right? Is that correct, Sharif?
Yeah, but man, look, go.
Okay. I don't want to over talk it here. I hope that this is
no.
Okay, good. The deal is this. Look, Sun Tzu in The Art of War, and we are at war. We are in a competition. I don't know what everybody else is telling you, but we are in a competition, even when they say that we're not. That's how they compete with you, is they tell you that you're not in a competition, and then you lose. And then because you didn't know that there was a game being played, you didn't know that there was a competition happening. So we are at war. We are in a competition. So just keep that in mind. Sun Tzu in The Art of War talks about how battles are won before they begin. Battles are won before they begin. So what he's basically saying, in my interpretation of that statement, is that preparation is everything. Preparation is everything. So in order to claim a spot, the person who starts first and prepares first is usually the one who's going to claim the spot. So I'll give you an example. Let's look at gentrification, for example, where we're reasonably and debate, and of course this is no debate. We are upset that people have come in to neighborhoods that we used to live in, where the property values have shrank, and they are going in and buying up all the property, and they build a Starbucks and a Whole Foods and a dog park, and they kick it, eventually the rents go up and everybody got to go, right? We know the formula. We know how that works, right? And so we are upset about this, and we should be. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be, but here's what's interesting. If you look at gentrification, do you think that the people that are gentrifying neighborhoods, do you think that they started planning gentrification 2 years ago? Do you think they started talking about it, in 2015? No, they were planning this in the 1970s. They were planning this in the 1970s. And the way a lot of wealth works is the first person that gets to the spot wins. It's like basketball. In basketball, when you take a charge, if you get to the spot first, then you can take the charge. Well, the same thing is true with something like a gentrification. Look, here's the deal. Here's the reality, right? Some of that property, we were sitting on that land, and we saw no value in that land because we saw no value in ourselves. So what I'm talking about here is not just technical. It's actually spiritual, cultural, psychological. This is a reflection of value systems. Would you argue that ownership is one of our leading, most important core values as a people? I would say that it's not. I would say that it's not. A lot of that land that people were able to come and buy was always available. We had middle-class Negroes getting fancy jobs, moving to the suburbs. They didn't want to go to those hoods. They didn't want those houses. They didn't want that land. Who wants to live down there? Right? We wanted to be where we thought the ice was colder, and we left behind the gold mines that were right in our own neighborhood. But then, we done left the toy on the ground, and the other kid runs along and picks it up and starts playing with it. Now we're mad that you got our toy. They saw value where we didn't see value. There are people who see more value in us than we see in ourselves. We know this. So a lot of what is required here isn't just a transformation in terms of skill. This is really a transformation in terms of will. This is a transformation in terms of values. This is a transformation in terms of how you view yourself. In fact, check this out. When they rank the cultures, culture is everything when it comes to wealth. Culture is everything. Well, why is that? Well, because what you value is what you're going to pursue. Like the Kardashians value fake booties and makeup and all this other stuff. So they're good at that. They're the best in the world at taking a mediocre looking white woman and making her look, not so mediocre. How about that? I don't want to disrespect Kanye, but come on now. So, but you get the point, right? A guy that values basketball is going to become a great basketball player. So what you value in your culture is going to determine where you end up. That's what's going to, a guy who values Jordans is going to have a really great sneaker collection. So you must really sort of assess in your own family, not in the whole community. You may not change the whole world, but you can change the world that's around you. Assess your values. Ask yourself, what really matters for us? What's really important for us? Because if you value acquisition of wealth, then you will acquire wealth. Those who value their future will have a great future. So in fact, when they measured the cultures that were the most successful in this particular study done by a lady at Yale University, it wasn't completely scientific, but she's at Yale, so maybe that means she's smart. She actually concluded that and this is a lady that's actually accused of being racist, but she actually concluded that the Nigerian culture is the most superior culture on earth. And she broke it down to 3 key values. One was an extreme commitment to education. Many, not to typecast, but this is okay to stereotype, I think, because it's a good stereotype. Most Nigerian families really value education. Most of you probably have friends and family that are from Nigeria, and you know what I'm talking about. It's not always true, but it's true more likely than not. Number 2 was how you feel about yourself, self-esteem. Do you take pride in who you are? I think Africans in America can use a little work in that area. I don't really know if we value who we are, right? And then the third one was the commitment to delayed gratification. The commitment to delayed gratification. So much in media that is presented to us is built on instant gratification. I gotta have it now. I wanna have it now. I don't wanna sacrifice for the future. All this other stuff. That's not how people succeed, because the people that tend to build the most wealth, this is not going to surprise you. The people that build the most wealth in America are the investors. And what is investing? Investing is simply planting a seed and letting it grow. It's sacrificing now so you can have more later. It's giving up something today so you can have more tomorrow. That's all investing is. And it's not usually financial. Sometimes financial investing is part of it, but you invest when it comes to your health. The person who invests by running miles down the road is going to have the fittest body. The person who invests by reading the most books is going to have the most education. So the ability and desire to delay gratification is what will make you successful. When I was in graduate school, Sharif, my family used to make fun of me, and they made fun of me because nobody in my family understood the idea of a 29-year-old who was still in school. Everybody really thought I was a complete deadbeat. They really did. And even I started wondering, like, okay, this is kind of strange, because I didn't have any guidance on this. I didn't know any PhDs, especially not in finance, that were in my family or anything. But one of the things that kept me going in terms of making that investment, which still pays dividends to this day, is I remember reading somewhere where a guy said something very basic, where he said, I'll spend a few years living like nobody else will, so I can spend the rest of my life living like nobody else can. And so when people would ask me like, oh, you still in school, huh? Yeah, I would just say, I'm going to sacrifice now at 27 so I can live the life of my dreams at 37, 47, and 57. And that was an investment decision, because there are a lot of things I could have been doing with that time. A lot of things, and my friends are doing with that time that wasn't beneficial to them. So teach this to your kids, man. Teach this to your kids. Give them the skill, give them the resources, start investing for your children so they have something to play with. They have some wealth to kind of mess around with. We have a $5 a day investing plan in the Black Business School, literally $5 a day. If you invest $5 a day in stock for your newborn baby, that child's going to have hundreds of thousands of dollars in liquid wealth by the time they're 25 or 30 years old. That means they can play the economic game above the rim. They can play the capitalism game because they will have capital. They don't have to be a capitalist, but they can compete with the capitalists because they have capital. They can go get a home because they have capital. They can go and start a business because they have capital. They're not going to be sitting there playing strugglenomics. They'll be playing powernomics. Strugglenomics looks like this. Strugglenomics is when you have the most brilliant idea in the world. You could be the next Mark Zuckerberg, the next Sharif Abdul Malik, but you need $3,000 to get your business off the ground and can't even get $3,000. So you slave away working for somebody, paying off an insane amount of student loans because you can't get $3,000. Don't do that to your kids. That is child abuse. Prepare them for the future. Give them some resources, give them some skill, and then you'll be giving them some freedom. Because I'm going to tell you, I don't know a whole lot of rich people who don't do what they want to do. Most rich people I know, they do what the hell they want to do. They get up in the morning, and then that's what's freedom. Freedom is the ability to make a decision on what you're going to do that day, right? Most wealthy people I know have a type of freedom that a lot of people don't know, because so many of us are trained to play strugglenomics as children. So prepare your kids for that. And the last point I'll make on this, the last little point I'm going to make, and then I'm going to be quiet, I'm going to zip it up and I'll answer questions, is this. Look, that whole thing about being proud and really believing in yourself and really taking risk, That's critical, especially when you talk about developing our business owners for the future. Jay-Z had the song Entrepreneur, where I hope that'll continue to spur a revolution of entrepreneurship. And let me tell you a little something about entrepreneurs and investors. Entrepreneurs and investors are risk takers. They're not crazy risk takers. They take what are called calculated risks, calibrated risks. Sharif takes risks, but I'm sure Sharif, because he's so smart, he thinks it through, he processes it, he makes sure he minimizes the risk, but it's still a risk nonetheless. I'm sure he can give you a long list of things he tried to do that did not work. So entrepreneurs and investors must be risk takers. And the thing about taking risks is it's like basketball. You're not going to hit every shot. You know, you're going to have some games where you lose by 20 points. But you have to prepare what is called fertile economic soil so that those brilliant young people in your family have the freedom to go take those risks, right? We do a lot of shaming in our family where anybody go through this, where you got family members where if you tell them that you got a new job, they cheer for you and want to have a party, but you tell them you're starting a business and they kind of feel sorry for you. You know what I'm talking about? You know, like, they'll hire you one day. They'll give you a job one day. Like, you know, maybe that person's not meant for a job. You see, here's what happens, right? We, and I'm going to use the term abort, not in a political sense, but because I think it's accurate. We abort a lot of our most promising young entrepreneurs and their possibilities because we don't support them when they want to go out and take a chance. So think about this. As brilliant and as amazing as Black people are, remember, you're the original man, the original woman. You survived the Middle Passage. They didn't. You survived the slave dungeons. They didn't. You survived 250 years of slavery. They didn't. So you are special. You really are. When people say, oh, they make fun of us calling ourselves a chosen people. I don't care. We are chosen. We are special. They can't go through what we went through. When you go through 400 years of what our ancestors have gone through, then come talk to me. Until then, sit down because we're going to take this thing over. So here's the deal. Look. You have geniuses everywhere in your community. The Black woman is giving birth to a genius every single second who could go out and create that billion-dollar company that employs 50,000, 100,000 people. So here's what happens, though, if you're not careful. You must nurture the genius that comes out in your children. So here's what happens. So you have a new baby that's born. He's the next Sharif Abdul Malik, or he's the next Mark Zuckerberg type person. He can go create a billion-dollar company that's going to make $10 million a day and do amazing things. So he shows that he's really good at computers at an early age. And then next thing you know, he's surrounded by these relatives who say something like, well, you're really good with that computer. Ooh, they're going to give you a good job. You're going to make a whole lot you might make 6 figures one day. So next thing you know, he's sitting up in college and he's not taking any classes on how to be an entrepreneur and how to scale up his business. He's learning how to go work for somebody so that some guy who's not Black, some company that's run by entrepreneurs can see his genius and say, oh, we can take what he knows and we're going to scale it up and keep the money for our people in our community. You see, you got to face the fact that a lot of the reason that you don't get the wealth that you deserve as a people is because you're allowing others to extract that which is most valuable from your community. You're letting people take your entrepreneurs. You're letting people take your athletes. You're letting people take even those children that are in the public schools that are failing and make money off the kids. They're making money off you like crazy. So evacuating that system is something that has to happen immediately. I believe we need to take over this process. Our core values are, we believe Black people should educate our own children, create our own jobs, and support Black business. If we do those 3 things, then in the next generation, we will win. I'm done talking. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate it.
Man, that was excellent, brother. Most definitely, most definitely. I've seen quite a few questions coming through. So we're going to highlight some of these asked questions. One of them that I see here, the first one here, someone has a question. They said, is there a correlation between the acquisition of Black wealth and Black marriages? What do you think is the path moving forward in this regard?
Well, first of all, healthy families is probably one of the most important things you should focus on. I'm getting married and we have a relationship coach just to make sure that everything is good, because divorce is, there's a documentary called Divorce Court by Dr. Drew, where he shows that $10 billion a year is made off of broken marriages and broken families. The average divorcee's wealth level drops by 70%, both the man and the woman, because the courts and lawyers get all your money. And also we know that the lowest net worth in America is that of a single Black mother, which is $5, the median net worth. So family is a very important part of wealth. People in other countries understand this. They've known this for generations. You go to most countries and you find wealthy families. They've been structured in a certain way for many, many generations. We're the only ones that kind of think you can start over again. But wealth and family are deeply connected. So one important thing that anybody should do if you have a relationship or a marriage is think of investing in your marriage and your relationship as part of your overall investing strategy. Your family is an important institution in your life, probably the most important institution. And in fact, that is your first business, is your marriage, right? So handle your business, and then you can go handle your business. I don't know anybody, there are very few people I've ever seen who can have a bad home life and a destructive family situation and still go out and accomplish things. It's very difficult to do because you're drained from all the fighting you have to do with your spouse. So pick the right person. Take your time. Don't just pick them because he's handsome or pick him because she's cute. Take your time to make sure that you have somebody that you can really build with, somebody who wants to resolve conflicts as opposed to escalate them, little things like that. There are books out there on this, and you should read that as part of your overall investing strategy.
Yeah, most definitely. As you say that, I was thinking about a lot of older business books. I guess the writers were a little bit more conservative, but they would say things like, it would be very difficult, or it's almost impossible to find a good person in business who's not good at managing their own household. They would make that correlation right there. Yep. And then I know, like, just even in business, if you want to duplicate yourself, you have to become vulnerable. So you have to let someone in onto your life, or let them in onto that part of that business. That could be your social media account, right? Like that could be whatever part of the business that you're running. Like, for example, we launched a fulfillment center not too long ago, and I put a plan together and said, well, I'm going to launch it. I'm going to do majority of the work for a month. I actually said 2 months. No, I'm sorry, I said a month. It turned into be a month and a half. But it was dreadful the first month. But I learned everything, and I timed everything. How long it takes to pack a box, to tape a box, to load it, all the way, the whole process. Wow. I'm finally out of the warehouse, and we're fully staffed in the warehouse. But I know what it takes to run that actual thing. But when we put the person in a position, and me and him had that conversation, I had to look at some things. I said, okay, well, look, is this person capable? Do they have the same vision and mission that we have? Are they aligned with us? Who are they partnered with? And these are some of the same questions that people ask in marriages, but we have to be vulnerable as a people, but at the same time protective, right? It is still our child. That business is our child, but at the same time, it's going to be very difficult to raise that child by yourself. So I believe that there's a very strong correlation there as well.
I agree with you. Business is a whole lot like marriage. The ability to manage relationships is probably one of the most important skills you can have. That's why I have a tremendous amount of respect. I love the Nation of Islam because they have codes and protocols for relationship management or dealing with conflicts and things like that. Also, George Fraser, he wrote that book, Success Runs in Our Race, all about networking and maintaining relationships. That's really important because if you run around just destroying relationships, then it's like chopping off all your limbs and then trying to run a race. You're not going to do as well.
Most definitely. So there's another question here. And this one here says, where did it go? I'm sorry, I lost it. Let's see if I can pull it back up. This one, okay. It says, what would have to happen between now and the election for us to market and gain traction with the plan of action akin to that of Dr. Chloe Anderson, what he discussed? So I'm guessing this is someone who follows you, probably, saw the latest talk between you and Dr. Anderson.
Yeah, I don't really see the election as any sort of particular deadline. I think that everything's incremental. And so I think that one of the great achievements that we've had as a people, and I don't really care who you vote for, and people that follow me, they know I've made plenty of jokes about the political process. But at the end of the day, the greatest thing I'm most proud of is the fact that that Powernomics concepts are now out there in the mainstream of Black people. You know, we got a lot of the rappers, you know, I heard from Ice Cube and Kanye, and you know, as crazy as Kanye can be, we know Kanye's a little different. But you know, but they're supporting Powernomics. They're using their platforms to really push these important issues. Charlamagne the God, you know, people like that, even Tiffany Haddish, you know. And so to me, that is a great turning point for Black people, because it's really sort of elevating the idea of Black people having economic sovereignty. And so that to me is going to be what matters more so than who wins the election. I'm not, you know, maybe I'm biased, but I'm just not a guy that I sat here and I sat for years watching and being excited about whatever candidate was being elected. You know, all the way back, I remember in college, you know, I'm a little older than you, man. I remember when Bill Clinton got elected, how excited we were about that. And then eventually I said, man, there's got to be a better way. Let me try something else. You know, so I think that we made a lot of progress, no matter who gets elected. Even if Trump gets reelected and people don't like that, I just really think that we're building a train that's going to be hard to stop. I really do.
You know, I want to go back to the topic of reparations. Now, considering the fact that, you know, African Americans, we're spending a lot of our dollars outside of our community. You know, let's say if there was a financial amount, you know, a dollar amount to that will be awarded or given to African Americans, would you believe that same dollar amount will leave our community as quickly as we received it?
For some people, yeah. I don't think that I'm not totally pessimistic about it, but it would be a stimulus for a lot of people that are not Black. You know, it's because economics is a game, and there's so many people that are positioned to just sit back and wait for the money to trickle out of your hands. You know, the money's going through your hands, and they just sitting up underneath you, waiting to just pick it all up. And that's real. But I still support reparations, and I also think that I support it, but I support it in a little bit of a pessimistic way, in the sense that I don't think that our government has the resources to really pay it at the level they need to really pay it. You're talking about a debt that's far beyond anything they could pay. I'm talking about 3 or 4 times what the stimulus package was that they did for the whole United States. You're talking about $14 trillion, really, that's actually owed. So I think when reparations comes through, it's going to be some BS. It's not really going to be something that is at the level that it should be. And we're going to be encouraged to accept it, because it'll be, you know, many will say, oh, it's the lesser of two evils, better than nothing, that kind of thing, right? That's kind of what we're used to in politics. I've heard some interesting ideas, though, that I think a little bit better, like, you know, maybe something with taxes. You know, if you're Black, you ain't got to pay taxes, or you get a big tax credit for a very long time. That would be a good start. I think that they could actually get away with some very easy investments in Black communities across the country, in terms of supporting the business owners and creating, you know, where we could create the jobs. So, you know, I think with reparations, I think that we have to remember a couple things. One, whether they write the check or not, you still have to own and control your own resources. That does not ever change. And then 2, we must make financial literacy and economic intelligence an important priority, so that when that check does come, or if things do change, we're ready to receive those resources and do something smart with that, right? And we're not stupid people, but we're not necessarily at a point where we have prioritized wealth building as much as we should.
Yeah, there's a brother, Robert Bowl. He says, I believe in buying back the block. I believe in Boyce, which the acronym that you described earlier. There also exists many racist policies which restrict our access to the financial system. Regardless of our level of poise, I believe we need to buy back the block and fight racist policies. Do you agree that we need to do this? And which one would you prioritize more?
Buying back the block, because if you read Powernomics, which I suggest everybody take a look at that, Dr. Anderson's website is powernomics.com. He actually talks about all these issues, these political issues and things like that, and he talks about it as a multi-story building. And the foundation of the building must be built before you can go to the higher levels. And the foundation of the building is economic power. And then he says, okay, once you have economic power, then you can have political power, because your government is run by the people that have money. So your economic power gives you the ability to control the politicians, which then takes you to that next level where you're talking about policing and things like that. You can control the police because you control the politicians, and then you get to education, right? So basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but he says that none of this really works if you don't have an economic base. The political system does not work for people that don't have an economic base. It just doesn't. It becomes an illusion. It's like having a driver's license and you can't even afford to get a car, right? You can't even, so if you got a driver's license and you can't afford to get a car, that means that somebody must provide the car that they might let you drive, but they usually won't give you the car and they won't let you drive it unless you're driving it where they want you to go, right? So you think you're empowered, but really you driving Miss Daisy, or they putting you in the back seat of the trunk and you ride wherever they want to go. Right? You need to be able to buy the car before you get the license. The car is more important than the driver's license. So voting is the driver's license. We need that, right? That's fine. No problem. Voting and participating in politics and civil rights and fighting racist policies. I agree with all of that. But you got to get the car before you go get the driver's license, because if you don't, then whatever you have, people can take it away from you really quick. And we've learned that already through what happened after the civil rights movement.
Now, in closing, because you dropped a lot of gems in this conversation, and I see people still constantly asking questions. Some of them are repetitive. What are some of the things that you would say? Understanding this concept of New Africa. What are some of the next steps that we must take as a people, that we should prioritize as a people? And I would say that platforms like yours and like ours, what are some of the things that we can do to help foster and advance this?
Well, first of all, patience is really important. It really is. Like we use another funny acronym, OPP, to talk about what it takes to really build long-term economic infrastructure. And OPP stands for opportunity, patience, and perspective. Right? So opportunity means identifying opportunities and utilizing that. Like a lot of times people see a problem and they get frozen up by the problem, whereas builders and entrepreneurs tend to see opportunities where others see problems. They see they realize, if I solve this problem, then that can be a wonderful outcome for me, right? So COVID, I think, was a great example where there were people who sat still in frozen fear, and then there were people who were making moves. And on an aggregate level, I mean, China was making moves. China used COVID to control Hong Kong. If you remember, they couldn't control Hong Kong, and then COVID comes along, and suddenly So what I'm saying is that when you talk about opportunity, identifying opportunities, patience means taking the incremental steps, knowing that it's not going to all happen tomorrow. You're really like a person that's trying to walk from New York to Los Angeles, and you're not going to get there in 2 steps or 3 steps or in half a day. It's going to take a lot of little steps in that direction, and you just got to know which direction you're stepping in. Perspective means having a broader long-term perspective. For example, in investing, those who have a long-term perspective are much better investors than people that are trying to make a fast dollar. Fast dollars, it doesn't work. Long-term perspective is where you say, I'm not worried about what happened today because I'm thinking about the next 5 years. And that even applies to life. When Alicia and I get into a debate or disagreement about something, I'll freeze up and I'll say, am I really going to care about this 5 years from now? And I'll say, no, I won't. So then I'll just stop talking. I'll say, let's talk about something better, right? So perspective is really important. And so with this, scenario in terms of developing the infrastructure, I think that we have to realize we have a big job in front of us. And most of our most powerful, most effective teammates are not even born yet. The people that are really going to take it to the next level is not. I don't think it's going to be me and you. They'll remember you. Maybe they'll remember me. But they're going to take it to a different level from where we are, because they're going to have more to work with. They're going to have opportunities that we can't even dream of. And what we do is we prepare them to receive those opportunities and really take them to the limit. And so I think at the very least, some basic things we could do right now is, one, we got to take over the educational process. COVID gave us a hell of an opportunity to do what we always knew we needed to do, which is to get our kids out of those poisonous public schools. Get your kids out of those toxic schools. Don't send them back. you got this. You can educate them better on YouTube than you can by sending them to that lady who doesn't even care about them at all. Just by the fact that you're giving them love as opposed to hate, that right there is 80% of it. When I was in school, I hated school, and it was because the people I went to school with hated me, right? If I'd been around people that loved me, I would have probably seen my potential much earlier. I wouldn't have made those D's and F's on every report card. So taking over the educational process is something we can do. The support of independent Black-owned schools, very important. We have the schools. We have the school. Muhammad University of Islam educates 12-year-olds like they are graduate students. Freedom Home Academy has 7-year-olds doing things that most high school kids can't do. These schools are there. We just have to support them, right? So taking on the educational process, you go deeper into supporting Black businesses, right? Building and supporting Black businesses. So that's a seesaw. It's a love relation, like between a man and a woman, right? The man does his job, the woman does his job. Next thing you know, a beautiful baby's being born. So the producers and the consumers in the Black community both have a job to do, right? If I'm a consumer, I'm buying Black. I'm looking for the opportunities to circulate the dollars in my community, et cetera. But on the other side, what you're doing is really important because you're challenging the consumers to fulfill the need, right? We've convinced the consumer to buy Black. The producer must produce Black. What are you are you giving them options, right? So I think that if that seesaw is really worked out, and you've done a great job with that, and I think in the Black Business School, I love the fact that we've been able to educate a lot of people to prepare to be on code for the type of economic infrastructure that we need. And then there's a lot of other people doing great work too. I think what you're seeing is you're seeing the circulation occurring. You're seeing the developing of infrastructure, the development of an economy, the development, most importantly, of the psychology necessary to build a Black economy, right? The habit of buying Black, the habit of building Black, the habit of getting things from Black, even little basic things like stopping the leakage of massive amounts of wealth that was occurring through student loans. People don't know this, but the number one reason that when they predict that Black wealth is going to trickle down to zero by 2053, the number one variable in that decline is student loans, right? So you're being hit hard because the area where you think you're making the most progress is where you're actually going backward the most. Wow. Most people know somebody who is deep in student loan debt, ain't got no plans to ever repay it, and is going to die in debt. Well, in the economic game, if you die in debt, you didn't win the game. You may not have lost, but you didn't win, right? So ultimately, I think just the fact that you now have lots of spaces where people are learning online, right? Again, COVID did this, and I'm happy that it did. I don't like COVID, but this was a great move for our people because now you're seeing millions, if not billions of dollars being reallocated to buying Black, getting education through Black channels, and being a part of the Black economy. And if we do that, then at the end of the day, I think we're going to build something powerful. So to summarize that point and close it up, here's the deal. Here's how easy this is. If you really want to look at a simple framework, we have that $1.3 trillion a year that goes through our pockets. That's enough money such that if we were a country, we'd be one of the 10 richest countries on earth. Black people are not poor. We can't be poor. If we're poor, then Mexico and all the Colombia and all the countries we have more money than they're super poor. That's not true, right? So we have what we need. We have everything we need. The problem is that your money is flowing out the window, right? So it's like in your house, your air conditioner is blasting, but your windows are open, so the house is hot. So you don't need a better air conditioner necessarily. All you got to do is close the window. So if we take that 1.3 trillion and simply found a way to redirect 10% of that 1.3 trillion, 10% of 1.3 trillion is $130 billion. That's 10, 20 times more money than it would cost to buy the entire NFL. That's enough money to create thousands and thousands of Black millionaires every single year. Dozens of Black billionaires every year if we wanted to, right? We've got what we need. We just have to sort of learn how to work it a little bit better. And I think that's what's going to make us successful. So I'm happy that there are people here that just haven't given up on us because I'm really optimistic. I'm more optimistic about the future than I've been in a very long time. So we just got to go in there and get it.
And most definitely, man. As you was mentioning that, my mind went to, just how layered these things are economically that sort of separate us from other people. And there's a person here that I'm working with in Atlanta that have to order about 95,000, have to get made 95,000 shirts. And, you know, as we were sort of doing the research behind this, you know, it's like you have, so when you're doing the research behind this, you have the person that owns the cotton plantation, cotton farm, right? And then you have these companies that get the cotton and they make these shirts. So you have these larger brands that are not Black owned, right? So a lot of people who are wearing shirts, they wear Anvil, Gildan, Fruit of the Loom, on and on and on, but non-Black owned companies, right? Then you have these distributors. So then you have these large distributors where you probably got Alpha Broder, you have SNS, you have, you know, whatever these other ones are, Atlantic Coast Cotton. So then after that, then you have the retailers, right, that are getting these shirts from them, and then they're selling it to us, right? Then they're selling it to us. We're running to Foot Locker and to all of these different stores and buying these shirts. But the cotton was free. The cotton was free. It was sold at a very low rate to the person that made the shirt. The shirt is made in pennies, and then it gets to the distributor, who then sells it to the retailer for about a couple of dollars, $2 or whatever. And then when it gets to us, we're spending $20, $30 for that shirt. So we're left out on so many different levels, but it all goes back to the land. It all goes back to the land. Doritos, Cheetos, all of these companies, these are brands, but those people are not in the business of creating Doritos and Cheetos. They're in the business of corn, right? And that's what's free. So we're left out from all of these different levels, and we have to get back to that, owning the land, cultivating the land, and then establishing these brands. So some people ask us, and they be wondering, like, are we working backwards? You know, not to be real, like we are. We're working backwards, but it's a strategy. You know, it is a strategy. Whereas that for right now, I think that the most important thing for us to do right now is, especially when you're talking about the psychology of our people, we didn't own a toothbrush. You know, we just didn't have a toothbrush on the market just a couple of years ago. So, and it was celebrated in our community, but this is something extremely insignificant. It's just a toothbrush. But here's the thing. It's like, if we now own it, if we're brushing our teeth every morning and know that this is a Black owned company, we're brushing our hair and know that the brush is Black owned, we're using the deodorant and the soaps and these are all Black owned products. Of course, we're going to bank Black. Of course, we're going to do these other things. You know, it will almost come natural. And then if we start on that process, then it'll be a lot easier for us to say, look, we got 1 million toothbrushes coming in, but we're getting these toothbrushes made in China or wherever. Let's not order from them anymore. Let's order the manufacturing equipment in. Let's manufacture this for ourselves, right? And then let's go directly to Africa and get the raw material. So that's a strategy that we have, and we have to start to explore these different strategies. So my call out to the community too is if anybody's in the hair care industry, you know, if you're selling like, I don't know, you know, hair butters or, you know, different things, different gels, any of that. A lot of you all that I notice is using the same exact bottles. The same bottles. I'm like, it's unbelievable. You're using the exact same bottles. And some of you all that I deal with are, you know, you all doing tens of millions. Some of you are doing, you know, hundreds of thousands. Some of you all just getting started. But all of you all are using the same exact bottles, and you're going to about 4 different people to get the same exact bottles made. The call out for anyone who could pick this up, and I do this every now and then. It's just things that I'm noticing on the market that we could pick up. Get into the manufacturing of bottling. Because if we had one person in our community to produce the bottles that we can say, because it's one thing to tell everybody in our community, say, all right, look, everybody who has a hair care a product, you know, you all, let's do some collective purchasing together. Instead of you all paying 50 cents by yourself for that bottle, if we all order it together, we'll pay 20 cents, and that will save on our bottom line. That's one way. But then another way is to say, let's do that same thing. But then now the person that we're going to purchase it from is our own people, is our own person. So let's look at those numbers and see, what does that take? That may take, to establish that here, that may take $500,000, but that's a house in DC.
Yeah.
That's a house. That's a house in DC. That's not even a house in Harlem. That's a house in DC. So these things are not as difficult. But what's happening is that we're left out on these process. We're just trying to compete to see, oh, you pay 50 cents. Well, I pay 49. We're just competing on that level. So man,
I love that, man. I mean, I think that taps into something that I think we really want to make sure our kids get exposed to is, there are so many fascinatingly simple and hidden ways that other people are becoming millionaires and billionaires in this country. And it's such a crime. This is another reason why we should own things like media, is because we only see the rappers and the basketball players, and,
right.
and that's not even that's not even half of 1%. And you go to the other side, you'll have people that are making millions of dollars with businesses where you didn't even know that was a business. Like, wait, manufacture the chemical that goes into the paint, and they're like, oh yeah, my family's been doing this for 4 generations. And so it goes to your point, understanding that whole process. And so it's a matrix that a lot of us are being exposed to for the first time. But I think that there's a lot there, man. I love that. That's what you said is perfect.
And most definitely, man. So, man, we appreciate you, man. And I want to respect your time. It's now 7:10. Dr. Boyce Watkins came on here. He shut it down. Anybody who has any final questions, please ask them now. Let me see. Sharif, my family has 11 hectare farm. Where is that? In Zimbabwe. Okay. Let me see. I keep hearing you are looking for connections to produce markets abroad in our community. Most definitely. Most definitely we are. We, as I mentioned, Africa is our family, is where we come from, and I think we're on to something very major. But I believe that, African Americans, I believe we have to break it's going to be a difficult habit, but we have to break it. We have to break it. We have to fight against it, because I'm telling you, the moment that we start producing everything for ourselves, then the conversation for, like, even when it comes to reparations, it's like we'll be in such a good position. We'll be in such a good position that it would just be different the way that it's asked for. Like, it'd be just a different conversation. It's like, y'all know y'all owe us that, right? Yeah, pay that. It would be more like that, it'll be a little bit different the way that conversation is had. But most definitely. So we're looking at Africa. We have to, I have to definitely get to Africa. I just haven't been, I haven't been, I really haven't traveled too much at all. I like to study a lot to see what's going on. But I said, if I ever was to go, it couldn't be for a week. It had to be literally for probably about a month, and it would be a business trip. It would be a business trip, and I would like to figure out where are all the manufacturing plants, in these different countries in Africa, and how can we work together to build up each other. There's so many products that we're using here in the United States that are just not ours. When we go into Walmart, or to Target, or to Whole Foods, 99% of the products we put in our cart are not Black owned, and the ones that we believe that are Black owned, they already sold out. We just ain't get the article yet. They don't sold out. We just didn't get the article. But that's what's happening. Your mortgage is the number one expense. That when you receive your check, or if you whatever, your mortgage is going to be the number one expense. Here in Atlanta, you want a 1-bedroom, 2, 3-bedroom, you can pay between $1,000 to $1,300, right? For people that is making $3,000, $4,000, a month, that's a third of your income. So a third of your income out the gate is going to someone right now that is not Black, not in our own community. We're renting, we don't own the property. So a third of our income right now is going to someone that's not in our own community. And that's why yesterday we had a young brother, still in his 30s, I think early 30s, is saying Salim, who has a multi-unit property here in Atlanta. I want to say it's 238 units. And this is one of his developments in his portfolio. But you know, he talked about how this property, they're building like this paradise idea of a community. When you come onto it's an apartment complex, but when you come there, you know, you would think that you're walking into paradise. Honestly, I mean, the neighbors is and the majority Black people. Everyone is very friendly. People will say you would think you could just leave your door open and go to sleep. They got a small farm on that property, gardens on that property. It's a very beautiful site. And he talked about, you know, how he came into that development, and he talked about, you know, our dollar, like a third of our dollars leaving our community immediately. Mm-hmm. And then after our rent or mortgage, after our rent or wherever we leasing, then you're looking at our the second highest expense is our groceries. So now, you know, so this is a whole nother conversation. Now you're talking about half of what we bring in, half of our income is leaving our community immediately. That's why 6 hours, because as soon as you get your check, you're paying your rent, you're paying for groceries, let alone going to the movies, going to a restaurant, going to all these different places. But everywhere we're spending our dollars, not in our own community. So I think a very important fight first is to, one, we have to get rid of anything that's causing us to hate ourselves. Anything that's causing us to hate ourselves, then we have to get rid of that in our community. That could be images. That could be, we know a very detrimental image was a white Jesus in our community. We know that. So removing these images, wherever we see them, removing them. And then practicing self-love, love for each other. It's going to be difficult. You're not going to be able to go into any definitely not going to have a successful business or marriage if you don't love that person. You're not going to be able to do anything if you don't have love for that person, business relationships, etc. You're not going to want to buy Black if you don't love Black people. Like it boils down to love, you know. After we love each other, then we have to start looking at these different things like, okay, how do we establish, you know, multi-unit properties with all of our people who are renting from this place here, and we got $1 million going into that building a month. Is 1,000 units, everybody paying $1,000 over there. How do we establish a multi-unit here where we have 1,000 units here and everybody's paying $1,000 a month? Immediately, you will see millions of dollars come back to your community. When you set up a grocery store in your neighborhood, which we're working on here in Atlanta, when you set up a grocery store, then, you know, if the average family is spending $400, $450 a month in groceries, and you take 1,000 families, right, which is not a lot of families, but if you just take 1,000 families, then that's $450,000 every single month that will come right back into your community. And that's if the grocery store is Black owned. But what about if the grocery store not is just Black owned, but majority, if not all of the products on the shelf are Black owned? That's a whole different ballgame. When a sister launched a grocery store out in California, we flocked there. It was the headline. Everyone started flying to California. It was amazing. But the products in there weren't Black owned.
Oh, wow. Really?
The products weren't Black owned. So yeah, the products weren't Black owned. So we have to like I said, so many different layers that when we think that we're progressing, it's not even progress, really. Mm-hmm. You know, it's really us just making someone else richer. And it is just an emotional excitement for us. You know, I feel like I'm buying Black, but the truth is none of that money really came to our community. None of it came to our community.
Well, you know what's interesting, man, is also, I think in addition to that, one way of looking at, you know, progress and prosperity for the community is that, you know, while we're aiming for scenarios that are closed off where the money hits the Black community and just keeps circulating, there's another dimension to Black economic progress, which comes down to how are Black people doing? You know, how is the average Black person just doing in the world? Which even goes beyond, circulating the dollars. And what I mean by this, I'm still talking economically here. If you're talking about a median Black family, or you're talking about your family, you know, most people in here, you know, they have the first place you start is in your own home, your own family. Right. Are they in a position where they feel financially free and secure? Right. A Black person can be financially free and secure, even if they're buying Black, say, you know, whenever they can, but what also is going to play a big part in your ability to be doing well in the world is, are you invested? You know, do you have assets or liabilities? You know, are you a consumer or producer? You know, what are you just financially safe? You know, and so imagine this, right? So imagine if we weren't immediately able to achieve every goal we have as far as buying black and things like that, which we know is very important. But imagine if we just flooded the market with so many black entrepreneurs that the black entrepreneurs and investors were just everywhere. You know, we were buying property. Maybe we're buying a white neighborhood, or we buy a neighborhood where the people that live there are Italian. You know, they just get used to having black landlords or whatever the case may be. And as a result, those individuals, because they have that economic consciousness, they're allocating resources to the black community. They're hiring black people. They're buying black products. They're investing in other black entrepreneurs. I think that we can achieve a type of power from that too, right? Like, for example, with the Jewish community, you've got some areas and enclaves that are 100% Jewish. Jewish own this, Jewish own that, money circulating in the Jewish community. But then you just have Jewish people that are just out, just living, that are still very successful. They might own your bank. They might own the TV network. They might own the grocery store, right? And they don't care necessarily. They may not care whose products are there or who's shopping there. It's owned by the Jewish guy. You know, so to some extent, the Jewish community, and I'm using this as a positive example actually in terms of what they did. You know, no anti-Semitism type thing going on. You know, the Nick Cannon stuff got on my nerves, but you know, I think it's interesting how you got this community where when I look at the way, say, a Jewish kid is raised, from what I know, I do see some commitment to circulating dollars in the community, but I see an even greater commitment to just making sure you're financially intelligent, so that wherever you are, even if you're in a place where nobody around you is Jewish, you're still going to be the person who ends up with the wealth, because you're going to make smart economic decisions, right? Like you're going to aim to be an owner. And that's a conscious choice. It's a choice to decide, you know, I don't really want to waste my money. You know, one of my friends lived in New York, and real estate in New York is very expensive, but he said, I was raised in a family where you really want to own property. So he did what he had to do, and he didn't go out, didn't go to dinner, didn't do whatever for about a year, so he could save up enough money for a down payment, because that was a priority. So even if he spends his whole life surrounded by white people, he's still a property owner. You know, he's still the landlord, which is actually what he does right now. Right, he's still financially secure. So I think that in addition to that, I agree with what you're saying. I think that the community aspect is critical, because then that allows us to create these economies that we're seeking to create. But I think also, in addition to that, I think just sort of being committed to saying, just as a cultural norm, even a black person who's surrounded by people who are not black, the black guy or the black woman is going to be the one who accumulates wealth, because they're going to make certain choices that will put them in a power position.
Yes, sir. Most definitely. All right, y'all. That's Boyce Watkins, Dr. Boyce Watkins, here on the segment today. This is New Africa August, the 23rd day of New Africa August. For all of August this year, because of COVID-19, we had a free webinar series where you would hear from different intellectuals and people who are just actually out here doing the work that can help us establish the life that we want, the life that we prayed for, the life that our ancestors prayed for. We have a month for ourselves, you know, Black History Month, which we celebrate and recognize our history. But New Africa August is for us to look at where we are now and start to plan and put together a system for our future. And New Africa, again, this is a concept that we have in our community, which we have defined as the physical manifestation of our collective desire and urge to do for ourselves, so that we may be in position to do for the whole world. And I have to speak to that last piece there, because I know the sentiment in our community is like, nah, man, we don't need to do for the whole world. We just need to do for ourselves. You know, I get that. I get that. But that's leadership. Leadership is key. You know, if you only focus in on doing for yourself, then there's going to be a certain mercy that you're going to miss out on that's going to cause your own destruction. It's going to cause your own destruction. So let's be mindful of that as a people, that the world is global, the world is, we're living with other people. But there's a priority on doing for ourselves. There's a priority that we have neglected, or that has been stripped away from us, and that does not really exist for us. but we're going to prioritize it. We're going to put it at the forefront that we must do for ourselves to take care of ourselves. And when we do that, we will be in position to compete, but also to lead the world. So thank you all for joining us every day for the rest of this month at 6 p.m. You all will catch the free webinar series, New Africa webinar series, where you'll hear from brilliant minds that's going to help us get to that next level. So thank you, Dr. Boyce Watkins. We always appreciate you, man. Any final words, brother?
No. I mean, if anybody wants to come hang out with us at the Black Business School, you're welcome to do that. I think that we can provide some support for what you're doing at We Buy Black. Similar to while I was at Indiana University, and I saw that there was this building and it was paid for by Caterpillar. And I said, why would Caterpillar pay for a building on this campus? I said, oh, that's right, because Indiana University educates the business school students, and then they go and they work with Caterpillar, stuff like that. So I think building the economy requires different infrastructures that allow us to train our own and prepare them, to enter into this new space that we're building, man. So I love what you're doing, brother. And I know we don't get to talk much, man, but my respect is on 12. On a scale of 1 to 10, I respect you at a level 12. And thank you, everybody, for listening. I've had a wonderful time. It was an honor to be here.
Most definitely, most definitely. Where can people connect with you? For all those that is watching this on Facebook, what link could they click to connect with you?
If you want I would like to give everybody who would like to read it a free copy of my book, It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar. And you can get that free book at allblackeconomics.com. That's allblackeconomics.com. So you go to allblackeconomics.com. You can get the free book, and you also be on our list. And we supply tons and tons of free information from the Black Business School, and we're going to just keep it moving and be very consistent.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, you definitely got us as a supporter. We appreciate you. Thank you for everybody that joined in. We'll catch you all tomorrow. Peace.
All right. Peace.